I don't recall if you had some connection to Rotary prior to doing the World Peace Scholar, but I feel like you did, and I didn't see that in
I
your.
I do, yes.
I thought so. Okay, so I actually am going to ask you to introduce yourself more carefully than I am doing, but Steve has been all over the world serving with our government officials in various positions, but he owes a lot to Rotary. And so I thought it would be really cool to bring him in, having served and been chosen to be a World Peace Scholar through the Rotary Foundation. And to see where he is now is just really, really cool. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to Steve Abels, who is in Tokyo right now, um, escaping his duties with the ambassador, which we're very, very grateful that you took the time to meet with us your morning this morning. Steve, go ahead.
Well, Chris, thank you. Yes, we've known each other for a long time, and it has been great. And I'll kind of talk about my background as I'm going through my remarks to kind of share with everyone. As Chris has said, I do have, I've been a beneficiary of Rotary's uh, scholarships and investment and generosity, and three times actually. So I'll kind of talk about some of those things as I go through. I've been very, very thankful, very blessed. Um, I've one of the things I want to talk about is the four-way test. And you all know the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And that has been something that, always try to do the right thing throughout my life. And I've often find myself thinking back to the four-way test when I first heard that and realizing that, this is something that provides an excellent framework or a lens to look at when we evaluate situations we come across and we consider the next actions. And it's been helpful for me to have that and to think of those four items, and especially in that order um, throughout. But I have to say that when I joined the State Department and I took my family overseas, um, my mother cried when I called her and let her know I joined the State Department. Um, so I don't know if I quite matched that beneficial for all at that time. My mom was very sad when the three grandchildren went abroad, and so that was a challenge for her. But she loves what I do, and she's very thankful for that, and she really appreciates that of the work I'm doing. My current job is I am the assistant to Ambassador Rahm Emanuel, the same Rahm Emanuel who is chief of staff for President Barack Obama, was also in the Clinton White House, former mayor of Chicago, and a former member of Congress. He is a very high energy ambassador. He never slows. I saw a quote just the other day. Somebody wrote in an article of you can, you can take Rahm Emanuel out of Washington, D.C., but wherever he is, he brings Washington, D.C. to him. Um, and he stays super busy. He has about, on average, a little over 7 meetings every day. And that's just keeps him going completely. As an example, I have like we do a schedule card every morning for him. And so it's all of his appointments and all of his movements, and we try to keep him on time. That's my primary job. I'm his primary scheduler, but also connecting him with phone calls. Just the other day, I connected him with Tim Cook at Apple and Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway. It makes for an interesting day to come home and just say, "Oh, I spoke to Warren Buffett this morning." Um, so it's a quite an interesting job. But as Chris said, I've been a recipient of Rotary generosity throughout the years, and uh, my first exposure, I guess, to Rotary was when my brother became a Rotary exchange student back when I was in middle school, and he went to Sweden for a year. And so he had a great time. And I thought, I want to do that too. And so I wound up going to Germany, and I was there from 1988 to 1989 and lived in a town in northern Germany and had an amazing experience that truly is life-changing when you think of pathways you take in life and how that affects where we go. Um, Being exposed to exchange, my experience in Germany, but not just with Germans, but also other exchange students at conferences, really propelled me into the world of international relations. And I originally wanted to be an engineer when I went to college, but 2 years into that, I realized not for me, and switched over to international studies. Uh, and after I graduated, started working for International Visitors Council in Columbus, Ohio, and that's where I met Chris. Um, and we worked a lot together, and I took Spanish classes at her business there downtown, and it didn't really stay with me. I'm very sorry, my Spanish, but it was a great experience, and that really, the International Visitors Council, they work with a program of the State Departments, and it's the State Department is called the short-term, well, it's the International Visitor Leadership Program, and it's where the State Department selects through the embassies, they select people who are up and coming in their countries to come to America and spend anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks visiting different cities and meeting with their counterparts and learning from them. This was in the mid 90s, and we were working a lot with librarians because we have great library resources in Columbus, Ohio. We also had social studies teachers coming over from the former Soviet Union to try and help them learn the importance of giving a balanced presentation when they're teaching the history of their country, of their region, and what happened, so that they could really be balanced. And so we would connect them with people that could help them with curriculum development and teaching methods. Uh, After that, I moved to Washington, D.C. for a brief while before moving back to Columbus and getting married, and where I worked for Governor Taft in his Office of Multicultural Affairs, and eventually became the director of that office. And one of the things that, think about the four-way test through life, I've been using this throughout my days and working. I would work with multicultural communities in Ohio, predominantly the ethnic communities, trying to find if there's something that they needed. Some of them were just very simple, hey, can you come to our Oktoberfest and give the governor's greetings? But other times it would be something more like we had the Liberian community came to me one time, and they said, we have struggles that we have. We're under this delayed deportment status. And the problem is that by the time the president of the United States signs executive order allowing us to stay longer, we've come out of status for working and for driver's license. And so how could we try and work with that in the state of Ohio? And so I get involved with the Department of Insurance. I got involved with Commerce in Ohio and trying to find if we can make a better solution for them that they could continue working even if they're technically out of status, because we knew it would be renewed, and it's very disruptive on their lives if all of a sudden the boss said, sorry, you can't come to work for 2 months. And then when it comes back in, then they could work again. So it's a very, very complicated situation and involved a lot of people in the state of Ohio. I left that. While I was in the Governor Taft's office, I actually participated in the Group Study Exchange program and went to Southern Bavaria. Went with a great team. I don't know if any of you know Tom Marcelane, I think from Ohio, and he's a Rotarian. He was our leader for the group and had a great experience with him. But I left the governor's office, and when I was offered the Rotary World Peace Scholarship and studied in Japan for 2 years. And during that time, I did an internship at the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Washington, D.C. The experience in Tokyo was an amazing learning experience, not just in the classroom, but out in the community, talking to people. My wife actually worked teaching little kids at a local school. And we just had just a beautiful experience. And that's benefited me throughout my career. Um, After I graduated, I worked for an orthopedic association in Chicago, and I was helping with international programs to get orthopedic surgeons in the United States to go and teach orthopedic procedures um, in other countries. And so I did a program to Mexico City, and we had a group of doctors that went down and taught a course on sports injuries, helping them to figure out the best ways to manage that. We did an ankle and foot course in Madrid, Spain. And I was very surprised to learn how many of the doctors actually thought that amputation was one of the best courses of action on some of the cases that they provided to the doctors who were in attendance. And so it's great to see that they could learn and from each other about different ways to approach orthopedic procedures. After that, I actually moved down to Duke University and was started off helping people find research funding. And it was an interesting job of looking at the research that was going on and helping the postdoctorate fellows, helping the faculty members find research dollars to really try and find improvements, whether it was for health related or engineering. But that actually led me then into a compliance job at Duke University. And this is where some of the things I learned during my Rotary World Peace Fellowship, about the importance of negotiating and working through trying to find.
Steve, you hit your mute button. There you go.
I think, yes, so something happened. Um, so the vice provost at Duke asked me, he said, Steve, he said, I want you to be a compliance buddy. I want you to be a compliance friend to the faculty members, which normally a friend doesn't go with compliance a lot. And so I had to really work on those skills that I learned of helping faculty members to want to be in compliance. And a lot of it had to do if they had stock in a company, they couldn't do research that was funded by that company. And I got to work with some of the neatest professors at Duke University. One of the things they talk about when they talk about conflict of interest is no interest, no conflict. And so if it's a pretty, maybe boring research type of thing, there's probably a little chance of conflict. But the ones that were working in like cancer research, really, we had to work with them to manage any potential conflicts of interest. And so really working with them to try and think of, what is the truth? How can we build goodwill through this so the faculty members wouldn't become bitter and angry about the compliance process, so that they could do the research that would be beneficial for everyone. And so that was a great experience. But the State Department and Foreign Service life was really a big interest to me. And I know we want to leave time for question and answers, so I'll kind of go through some things quickly. Our first posting was Doha, Qatar, and that was in 2012. And I worked in the security office. And it was a challenging time, 2012 to 2014. That's when Benghazi happened. And we were living in the Middle East and a lot of the struggles at that time. And I was working in the security office. Our job was to keep the embassy safe and the employees and their families safe as well. But we always remember that we were within missile range of Iran. And it gives a different perspective on life. After that, we moved to Jakarta, Indonesia, and I worked in the political office. And during that time, there was a terrorist attack about a quarter mile from work and about half a mile from home. And it was on my normal bicycle route heading home. And that was very much a very awakening moment of, this can be potentially a dangerous place, a dangerous job. Actually, in the Foreign Service, we don't always call it a job, we call it a lifestyle, because our job affects every part of our lives. It's almost impossible to really shut down and say, this is only my job, this is only my home life, because everything is affected by what we do. After that, moved to Vienna, Austria, and was at the U.S. mission to the UN for 3 years, working at the section that liaises with the International Atomic Energy Agency section, and working with them. And at that time, there's still a lot of negotiations happening for the Iran nuclear treaty meetings, and John Kerry was in Vienna quite often. Then moved up to the executive office. After that, moved to Budapest, Hungary, and we were there during COVID and challenging time. But one of the things that we did that we felt really important in the office is the importance of
¿Es ahí igual bailar salsa o tango?
is having open communication with everyone throughout the embassy. And there was very much people were not sure what was going on and what was happening. And we had weekly town hall meetings where the leadership of the embassy would present the latest news, what we'd heard through our government contacts, what things were doing, how things were going. And it was very hard. We actually had authorized departure at that time. So if people wanted to leave, they could. We didn't. We chose to stay. But anywhere from a half to 2/3 of the embassy left and went back to the States. And so those of us who stayed there did our best to maintain all the functions that we could, but also keep people informed. And now I'm in Tokyo. And it was, I originally came to work in the economic office, but I got moved up to be the assistant to the ambassador. And so I had a joke earlier that I'm not a Rotary Ambassador Scholar, but I'm Ambassador Scholar because I need to study my ambassador and know what he likes and how he likes it, so we can give him all the tools he needs to go and succeed. And he has been a very effective ambassador here. There's been a lot of work that's been pushed forward because of the work he's done here. Three things that kind of addition to the 4-way test, I've always had a desire to learn and to grow. And I think that's very important throughout life. I heard and also if you're not trying and you're not making mistakes, then you might not be learning. And I came across this great phrase the other day. It said, we put erasers on pencils because people make mistakes. And that's not a bad thing. That there's always a way to erase it and try again and do it better next time. And trying also to desire to improve and a desire to serve others and really have that opportunity through the work I'm doing. And so I don't know if we want to stop there for any questions, or if I have some more remarks I could do if that would be best, whatever. I know you want to leave time for questions and answers.
Steve, I'm guessing people have a lot of questions. So I'm going to let you actually call on people since you can see their names. So if you see somebody's hand, unless you want me to intervene, but you can handle it, I'm sure.
Okay.
That is Stephanie. Would you like to?
Yeah, I have a question. So I guess my question is, I've got actually two. One is, you keep talking about supporting your ambassador. What are the main things you do to support the ambassador? And also, how much interaction do you have with the people outside of the embassy?
Okay. Well, to support our ambassador, we put together a briefing book for him every day for his meetings for the next day. He gets invitations all the time for speaking engagements. Does he want to speak to this group? Does he want to meet with this individual? And so we always make sure that we kind of vet through our internal process, and then we present to him and find out, do you want to make a speech here? Do you want to talk to this group? How much time would you like to have for this individual who wants to come in? And so we really try to make sure that we kind of monitor his time so that the time he's spending is very productive. And one of the things he likes to have is he wants a working lunch every day. And so he's meeting with business CEOs, he's meeting with members of the Diet, the Japanese Congress or Parliament. He's meeting with journalists, and we're trying to make sure that almost every minute of his day is as productive as can be. And so, but he has lots going on. There's lots going on. It's amazing to see him work. He can be very abrupt and very gruff. But when he focuses on something, he is, just the things he's thinking of, the perspectives he has is just incredible to watch. And so trying to help him to be able to have those times when he can do that is the best. Like every night I text him what his first appointment is for the next morning, so he knows. And different times I say, hey sir, you need to leave in 5 minutes for this event. So really that's my best how I try and support him and keep him on time and evaluate where he's going. Interactions with the community, we have quite a few. We have opportunities we can go and speak at schools or speak with different groups. And so at every post I've been at, I've been able to speak to college groups and high school groups, talking about the foreign service. Sometimes they're Americans who are abroad, and I'm talking to them that way. Sometimes they are locals. And I gave a talk in 2023 to a group of Japanese students about kind of my experiences through life and my recommendations for them. And it was a great opportunity to talk to them. And they actually sent questions by email later on, and I answered even more of the questions that way. And so it's been really good that every post we've had, we have interactions with locals. Sometimes it's some posts are harder. When we were in Qatar, I think the whole time I was there for 2 years, I maybe met 3 true Qataris. Because 85% of the country, of the residents of Qatar are from somewhere else. Only about 15% are Qataris. But then we took a trip to Oman. And one of the things we read about is they said, the Omanis will be driving your taxi. You will meet Omanis. In Qatar, a Qatari would never drive a taxi. And so different countries have different experiences. And it's always been really neat to get to know the locals and hear about their experiences and how things are from their perspective.
Have you gone into any Rotary meetings in these other countries?
I have not yet.
Okay.
So if we can get him to join a Rotary club, he probably would.
Nice, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Steve
Steve.
Miller.
Me?
Yes.
Well, Steve, I just wanted to ask, I've been reading a little bit about what's going on down in Haiti right now. And I heard that they took a lot of the embassy staff out, and I just have not been able to find out, did they take all of the embassy staff out? Are you aware, or can you talk about that at all?
I don't think that they've taken everybody out. I think that there's probably still a core group. I saw that news report as well, and I believe that they removed the families were evacuated. The spouses and the kids, and probably at every post we have a list. It sounds pejorative in some way. We have the essential staff and the non-essential staff, and this is a list we maintain it all year round, because in case something happens, we need to be able to know who has to stay and who's free to leave. And when we draw down an embassy, we have to be very careful, because there's certain services that we need to continue to provide, and we need to be able to continue to provide consular services for Americans who might still be in country that would need those services. To actually close an embassy is a pretty serious matter. And so we typically draw down as small as we can. And we might get to a staff of maybe 12 people in a whole embassy, but then the locally engaged staff, local employed staff, still continue to work. And so they're helping us through things as best as they can. But it's a struggle because our locally employed staff are also dealing with hardships, and their families might be in danger. They might be targeted because they work with the Americans. And so we try to be very mindful of how we approach embassy closures or drawdowns.
And is it true that still U.S. Marines are stationed at nearly every embassy as security staff?
At I believe at every embassy they are. They're not at all the consulates. We have some places that we call them lock and leave, which means that the last person who leaves turns on all the alarms, locks the doors, and then leaves. But here we have Marines on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they are phenomenal. They actually take time away from their career in the Marines to volunteer to be on the program to serve at the embassies. And it's a 3-year commitment for them. And they rotate every year. So I was just talking to a Marine the other day, and he's PCSing, which is called permanent change of station. He's moving soon. He doesn't know exactly when. He might get a week's notice, but he's excited. He's going to China. And it's great and they're very energetic, very smart young men and women, and they're wonderful. We really like them.
I got one last little minor thing. In your position with the State Department, are you guys on the General Services Schedule, the GS scale?
We actually have a different scale. It's called the FS scale.
Okay.
And where GS scale goes up in numbers, like 11, 12, 13, 14, as you get promoted, ours goes the other way.
Oh.
So I entered as a 7, became a 6, then a 5. I'm a 4 now. And then it goes up to 1. And then above 1 is what's called senior foreign service.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of reversed a little bit. And it doesn't match up equally as well either.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. James Hunt.
I'd like to talk about your experience as a Rotary Peace Scholar. How did you get into the program? Why did you decide to get in there? What do you think you've learned from it? Did you benefit? And I hope all those answers are yes. And how do you use that in your job today?
Yes. It was an amazing program, and it was something I was looking into. My brother actually brought the program to my attention. Because he works at Duke University at the Duke Center for International Development. And Duke partners with UNC Chapel Hill to have a Rotary Peace Center there. And he pointed out to me, he said, "Steve, this is a great program." And I kept looking at it, and I thought, oh, this would be amazing. It's amazing scholarship, amazing program, working with students, other graduate students from all over the world. And one of the things I liked at ICU is the International Christian University here in Tokyo. It's in Mitaka, just outside of the 23 wards of Tokyo. There are a lot of students that are part of what's called a JICA program. And I can't remember what JICA stands for, but it's like probably Japanese International Cooperative Agency or something. But they sponsor students from other countries to come and study at ICU as well and other universities. So I was working with other graduate students from Malaysia and Indonesia and Vietnam, and really got to learn a lot from them. One of my favorite classes was a comparative study about public administrations around the world. And in the middle of that class is really interesting. That's when my absentee ballot arrived. And I was able to say, so this would have been the election in 2004. And I brought that into class and I showed them what it looked like. And it was so interesting for me because they said, can we vote on your form? I said, no. I said, that's a privilege for me, as a right for me as a US citizen to do that. Well, can we do a class vote and we tell you how to vote? I said, no. I said, why? And they said, we get a new president in Indonesia. We get a new leader in Malaysia. What does that do to the world? That doesn't do hardly anything. When the American president is voted in, that has worldwide implications and effects that ripple through the whole world. And they said, we feel that we should be able to vote for your president. I thanked them for their sentiment, but I said no. But it was a neat experience to work with in a graduate program where you're really delving into peace studies and to hear the different perspectives of students from all over the world, and to be outside of America studying that really was beneficial to allow other voices to be heard in stronger ways. And so it's really helped me in my work now, and in my other jobs as well, working with different cultures and trying to understand them better. So one of the things I tell students, I always tell them when I'm talking with them, the importance of having a certain comfort level with ambiguity, because we move every 2-3 years in our job, and you don't always know what to expect when you're going to the next thing. But to also practice, embracing change, because it's going to happen, but also to active listening, and to really try to spend time listening to somebody, and how much respect you can show in every culture if you spend the time to seriously listen to them and respond to them appropriately based on what they've said. It really helps to improve relationships and build friendships.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question for Steve? We have time for one more question. All right, I have a question. Do you
Okay.
have any indication at all where you will go for your next post? Or is that a complete out of the blue sort of thing? Or do you get to have some influence on it?
I do get to have some influence. I find a list of places that are available, and I can bid on those positions and interview for them. I'm in an unusual situation right now. The first time I've had this in my career in the State Department. Most places, when you go somewhere, like my travel orders will say what my tour of duty is. And it might say 2 years transfer, 3 years transfer. And that's most of my colleagues at the embassy right now. My current travel orders say tour of duty indefinite.
Oh,
And that's because I am tied to the ambassador. When I became his assistant, my orders were rewritten, and I am tied to him. I am here in Japan as long as he is here. And then after he departs, I have up to 5 months to archive his records and to work on other projects at the embassy. And it also helps to give time for kids to graduate from finish a school year. And so I can't bid on the next position until he leaves. And so normally this fall would be the bidding season for the summer of 2025. I can't bid. And so part of the comfort level with a certain level of, or comfortness with a certain level of ambiguity, realizing that's what I have right now. And so I'll have to look for things that are maybe a now position, what we call, something that's available at that moment. And it could be anywhere in the world. And so far, I've been serving 12 years abroad straight, 5 postings in a row abroad. And there's lots of change coming up. My oldest son graduates from high school this year, and is going to be heading off to university. And it's going to be a change in the family. But my next post I'm bidding, I only have to think about my other 2 kids and their educational needs. So it's yeah, lots of things are unknown, but I know it'll turn out okay.
it has been a real pleasure having you, Steve. I've seen lots of the comments. I hope you have too. Just 2 quick reminders. If you have time, Steve, if you could hang on the phone a little bit longer. If not, we get it. I think you're pretty busy and everybody recognizes that. But some people may have a question afterwards. I just want to give you 2 reminders. The service project this month, one more time, is your 3 letters. Reach out to someone that is important to you that you haven't talked to for a long time. 3 of those people this month. But our social meeting, please, if you can make time, it's 1 hour. It's a very unstructured, fun meeting where we get to really get to know each other better. If you could come at all, we would really love that. It's on March the 23rd at 1 o'clock. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. If you'd like to hang out for a little longer, that'd be great. Have a great month, everybody. See you soon. This meeting is adjourned.